All right, so as you know, the Trans-Pacific Partnership talks in Hawaii have stalled for now. Many people will be pleased, not me for one, actually, I wanted them to go ahead. Many Kiwi companies are still hoping the deal will be done before the year's end. With me now, New Zealand International Business Forum Executive Director, Stephen Jacobi. Stephen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming in. Good to see you again.
Yes.
You are still hopeful a deal can be reached?
I am hopeful. I am optimistic. Actually, I'm a little more hopeful now that these Hawaii talks are behind us, because a number of the real issues now have been narrowed to just a handful, and that's very good.
Although they have been narrowed to a handful of quite significant issues. I mean, the real sticking point here, you'd have to say, was not dairy, it was automotive, wasn't it?
Well, I think that seems to have been the issue that kind of brought that meeting to a conclusion. But I think we've got a range of issues. They're just fewer in number than they were, and that gives us some hope that they can be resolved.
All right. The government have made it clear, more or less clear, that we will not sign a deal unless we have favourable dairy conditions. And wider than that, favourable food conditions.
Yeah.
Are you hot on that as well, or do you think they should be a little less concerned about that?
No, we agree with the government on that. We know the value of trade for New Zealand. We know the benefits of our earlier FTAs. We know what's on the table. You can't go past dairy, because dairy is the largest exporter. It's got the highest barriers. But even outside dairy, there are a lot of things we can get out of this agreement. If you just take 4 product areas, beef, seafood, horticulture, and wine, every year we pay around $130 million worth of tariffs to TPP countries. If we can get rid of them, that's good news for our exporters. That's not new business. That's just paying less. And so they and a range of other things are going to be good.
Business, that's the amount we can gain just by free trade. But just to confirm the point that you made, without a favourable dairy deal, it doesn't stack up.
I think dairy has to be included. I think dairy will be included. The question is not whether dairy will be in or out. The question is, how will dairy be in? Will we get meaningful access to the consumption of TPP countries, and will it be on rules that are fair to everyone? I think there is not just New Zealand that is interested in this, and that's what gives me optimism that we'll make this through.
But we are the most interested, and it seems to me impossible that the countries that have the highest tariffs, the highest surcharges and subsidies are going to buy into this in the short term or even the medium term.
But that's why we negotiate these things. That's why we're doing this deal. And those who are opposed to it need to be able to explain, well, how are we going to address these high tariffs in these other markets if we don't sit down and negotiate?
Okay, and then you take it a stage further. Okay, we haven't been successful with these negotiations. Is it still better to be in the tent so we can continue negotiating, even although in the short term we could be talking about a lost situation?
This is a really big point, because it would be a huge call for any New Zealand government to say that this deal was so bad, with all our competitors and all our partners in the Asia-Pacific region going ahead, that we weren't going to be part of it. I think no government probably would make that decision, but we still have to see that it stacks up on a number of core elements for New Zealand.
There's a school of thought that says without, and this is why I was talking to the Prime Minister before about there's a certain window which is closing as we speak. That window is Obama and his presidency. How much of this deal depends on having a president of the United States who is desperate to push it through?
It depends a lot. And the problem with TPP all year is because we didn't see that from the United States. And it wasn't until President Obama got his fast-track legislation through the Congress that we saw the United States actually committing to this negotiation with some leadership. That's what they are showing in Hawaii. That's why we're very positive about this. But of course, the Americans will be wanting to ram things through to get this finished. And we've just got to stand up to that.
Certainly does. This is a legacy issue for Obama, isn't it?
We have every confidence in Trade Minister Grosser and his officials who know what's at stake, who know the risks that there are for New Zealand if we don't get this right, and we think that they have, a lot of ability to bring this to a successful conclusion.
Yeah. Do we know the thinking of, for instance, Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton on this? They're certainly not likely to be pushing anywhere near as hard as Obama, are they?
Well, I think Jeb Bush would be, instinctively pro-trade. Hillary Clinton has a history of supporting TPP, but seems to be equivocating on that somewhat at the moment.
Quite a lot on that. But I wonder what you say about Jeb Bush, though, because they are still quite protectionist, aren't they, particularly with dairy?
That's right, and we've got to overcome those issues. But there's a lot for the United States in dairy. Remember, the United States today is the largest exporter of dairy products, and especially to TPP countries. And New Zealand's production is only 3% 5% of global production. It's fairly small. So the United States has a lot to gain out of this, particularly in Canada and Japan.
All right, interesting. It's interesting that you are as positive as you are, Stephen.
We'll have to see what the negotiation yields.
Yeah.
But at the moment, there's momentum that's positive, and let's back Tim Grosser. Let's back New Zealand. Let's back our officials.
I'm sure we have the right person there, but I mean, it could be an impossible task, but that remains to be seen. Stephen Jacobi, thank you very much for joining us, Executive Director of the New Zealand International Business Forum.